Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
Beach FM, great to welcome back the Kapiti representative from the Greater Wellington Regional Council, Penny Gaylor. Penny, good morning.
Good morning, John.
Got into talking about things political, looking at some of the point of view that you bring because you have been involved in politics, both local and you've been in the Beehive. In fact, that's where we first met, I seem to remember. And you've got many perspectives in terms of political spectrum, and we had an election on Saturday night. What is your takeaway from what seems to me to be a tectonic shift in New Zealand politics?
Yes, well, it's, we're all kind of going, wow. We knew what the outcome was going to be, didn't we?
Yes.
But we didn't know that was going to be the outcome. Honestly, I've been around a lot of elections. I was with David Longy working in his office on the night that he got re-elected. So I've had some pretty close encounters of good outcomes myself. This is really clear-cut democracy, and I'm a South Islander, and I, sort of reading in the last few days, analysis of how the South Island voted for that party vote, and being from farming stock, and there's classic stereotypes, and I grew up in amongst that, and it wasn't a stereotype; it was true blue countries around the Ashburton area. So an amazing result for Labour. And I'd say to you and to others that, well, I just hope that we don't do that tall poppy thing where we just got to find a way to cut it down. We've just got to find a way for it to have been wrong for some reason. Actually, the times have been unique for us this year. And actually there have been quite a few big events in the last decade for New Zealand leading up to actually people just wanting good things to happen. I think for me that the absolute time is right for Jacinda Ardern being Prime Minister. As a person in politics who gets to weather all sorts of stuff and rubbish stuff, but all the good stuff too, this is a great time to have Jacinda as our leader, I have to say. That strength, that leadership, that certainty, and let's do it with a sense of dignity and kind of graciousness to one another.
Yes.
And it's like, let that be contagious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Penny, could we go back? You mentioned Ashburton. That's pretty close to an electorate called Rangitata, isn't it?
Yeah, right in the heart of it.
Okay, this is supposed to be the most conservative electorate in the country. In other words, deep blue. And it voted for Joe Luxton for the electorate MP, and it voted strongly for Labour in the party vote. In fact, the whole South Island voted for Labour in the party vote. I come from the South Island as well. I just find this, as I say, a tectonic shift. Why do you think that happened?
From Ashburton, went to Ashburton Intermediate, Ashburton College. My dad, a farmer, but also worked for a stock and station company, so everybody I knew farmed, and everybody I knew voted National.
Yep. And
then on the day where Jenny Shipley had an election, my dad went and mowed her lawn. This is absolutely, your description's very accurate. And, I grew up with a certain view and a thinking. And what I'm saying is, we talk about, gosh, life is so complex now. And there are so many things, and there's a lot more talk these days around climate change, certainly in my role at local government. It's the biggest thing we talk about, and it's in every single conversation. People are getting a lot more clearer on the complexities and all the different kind of issues. But what we've learned this year is that through the COVID experience, we've actually come to being really good at making decisions not based on our personal benefit. We've actually got really good at making decisions based on the good of everybody else. Yeah. And I think we actually got some really good practice at that this year. And we actually went, I like how that feels. When it's the right thing to do. I don't know anybody personally in my kind of friends or family or anything as wide as those political viewpoints are, that went, nah, this is, hating on it. Everybody went, this is the right thing to do for everybody else. A lot of people I know have had really tough times through it, but they've known that it's been for the greater good. This is just one of those real times when that actually is true. And so I think just a lot of people went, what's the greater good here? And it just felt right, I think.
Another factor, I think, remember that old John Clark song, Fred Dagg song, We Don't Know How Lucky We Are?
Yeah.
I reckon this time around, with the amount of coverage, and thank heavens, in this country we get really good international coverage. And we've seen that the countries we'd like to compare ourselves to, the USA, the UK, and to a lesser extent Australia, really struggling with the COVID thing. And realising that, in fact, maybe we did get it right in this country. I've got a feeling that was a very important aspect, that we were no longer as parochial as we have traditionally been, that we had a more international view and therefore a more informed view.
Yes, yeah. I definitely think that I absolutely agree. I certainly know some people who've still, voted in other directions. I think a lot of people, they might have been strategically voting, but I think, I think when you talk about people voting strategically, I think that needs to be in a more organised sense. If people just do their own, within their own head strategic thing, I don't necessarily call that strategic voting. That's more tactical voting, for example. They might have voted, a mixed bag. And just big ups to all those who campaigned, having done all sorts of campaigns myself. Everybody who got out and was campaigning for themselves, or who as volunteers for political parties who campaigned, good on you. Yep. Because
for all parties.
It's hard, absolutely. It's hard to do that stuff. You kind of, and all those vast amount of volunteers aren't doing it for themselves. They're doing it for something that they believe in. And isn't that great to have something you believe in?
Right.
And that here's something you can do about that. And that is very fundamental to democracy, that you can openly go and support a viewpoint or a person to help them get into Parliament. And it's great that we, I don't think there was particularly much rubbish around people getting a hard time about that this time around, so that's good.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay,
so,
Penny.
And congratulations to everyone who got in. So,
absolutely.
We have high expectations of you, and I know that, it'll be a good 3 years. It will be.
I wonder if I could, just before we go, touch on a local transport issue which affects the regional council. The big promise, or one of the big promises that National made, was a second Mount Vic tunnel. And on either side of the tunnel, we've got Wellington Central and Rongotai. In both of those electorates, National came third. And that suggests to me that people do not have an appetite for a second tunnel. I think that's a reasonable implication to take from those figures. Therefore, possibly the emphasis is more on public transport, which is where the regional council comes in. How do you think the council and the government are going to make progress in terms of public transport, given there seems to be a real mandate in Wellington for it?
Transport, we just can't seem to get ourselves all lined up, because it's a lot of money, and it's sort of long, a lot of years ahead. And also, what's really top of mind for me too is that the level of disruption when we actually get in there with the shovels or the diggers and all that carry on is going to be big.
Yes.
So, and it's so much money that you can't. It's almost like we're all a bit scared to make the decision and then get on with it. It's getting a bit like, oh my God, if I have to see another report or another feasibility study, I get a bit roll my eyes on them. because things change, and all these different kind of factors change, and the government changes, and then the impetus from NZTA changes, and you've got this mix of elected people across regional council and Wellington City versus public servants of the NZTA making decisions, and I kind of feel like it's not a good mix of actually getting things done, because then everybody's just got different opinions. So there was, certainly in the last trinium for the government, there was support for that Let's Get Wellington Moving, but it's not moving. It's just, endless. I feel very frustrated. I'm not a plannery policy kind of person. I'm like everybody else when I go, well, I just reckon when we make a decision, it means we get on with it, right? So I just get as frustrated as everybody. I'm just normal. Yeah. So in the meantime, we just go round and round a bit. I just like to see us kind of gather ourselves and go, well, where are we at today, folks? And let's just make this decision, and we're all with it, and we're all getting on with it.
Right. Let's get moving in the case of Wellington. Let's keep moving. I seem to have heard somewhere else. You want to be a bit cheeky and go, what could be another, really, really this time, let's get moving. But, and it is with the very best of intentions. It's a very simplistic approach I gave, because it is people also being mindful of a whole lot of different opinions, local, businesses in Wellington CBD hurting because of COVID lockdown. So, there are a lot of factors to kind of balance out here. It's tricky. It's really tricky, but we either have to decide, well, let's just stop trying, or actually let's get on with it. Okay, well, I'll let you get on with it in that case. Thank you so much for joining us. Penny Gaylor, Regional Councillor, the Greater Wellington Regional Council Kapiti representative. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure.
106.3 Beach FM.